Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's session. My name is Ken Mathews, and I am your Savvis Educational Consultant. I'm so happy to be here with you today because this is just such a great product. You're going to love it. It's going to change the way you teach. It's going to change the way your students learn, and it's going to change it all for the better. So let's get started. Before we begin, we are using Zoom, and there are some features of Zoom that we will be utilizing. So I want to make sure you completely understand them. So first and foremost is the chat. If you click on chat, you'll be able to answer questions. I'll be able to put some links in there, and that'll be very helpful. If you move on over to the right, you see breakout rooms. And that's important because we will be utilizing them. Finally, there's reactions. If you click on reactions, you'll see that you'll be able to enter emojis or raise your hand, do a thumbs up, etc. So those are some important features of Zoom that we will be utilizing today. Okay, so without further hesitation, I'm going to share my screen and get into our slide deck. So as I said before, I'm Ken Mathews, and we're going to be exploring Envision's AGA. AGA stands for Algebra 1, Geometry, and Algebra 2. And this is about a 2-hour program that teaches you how to activate the program. So it'll get you started with your getting students going with the beginning of your school year. There are 6 parts to this program. First is the introduction, which we're doing right now. Then we're going to be logging into Savvis Realize. Then there's the program overview, so you can see what an entire year of resources looks like. Then the course is divided up into topics, so you'll see what a topic structure is all about, how the topics are structured. And within each topic, there are lessons, and we'll be able to see the 4 components of each lesson. And then finally, we will wrap it up. So any questions so far? Just unmute yourself and holler out. Okay. Great. So I'm going to keep the chat open, but what I am going to do is turn off my video so that my floating head doesn't cause you any concerns. All right. So we have 3 learning goals for today. Our first learning goal is around the program components, and I will be able to enhance my instruction and my students' learning using Envision's AGA, print, and digital components. The second learning goal, is around the instructional design of the program. So I will be able to plan and teach Envision's AGA topics and lessons effectively. And then lastly is around student engagement. I will be able to engage students using problem-based learning, visual instruction, and differentiation with student choice. So you'll leave this session equipped with a teacher toolkit to support you as you begin your journey. You'll have resources for planning and teaching with Envisions, and you'll see guided tours on video to help you navigate the digital components. So let's explore now teaching with AGA. So we are in actually part 2, where you will be able to identify the purpose of the Envision's AGA program, but that's part 3. Actually, part 2 is logging in. So what I would like you to do right now, I'm going to hit escape, and we're going to go to Savvis Realize. So if anybody doesn't have a Savvis Realize account right now or doesn't know how to log into Savvis Realize, would you please unmute yourself and give me a holler, and I will show you how. Okay, so please log into your Savvis Realize. And there you have it. Now, right now, this is the home page, and I have 3 courses in my home page, and you can see the assignments that I've given. When we go to browse, there's the whole library. It begins with the whole library of text available to you. Yours is a little different than mine. Classes is where you can set up your classes and add additional assignments, etc., and lessons to them. And then my library is a completely customizable section where you can make playlists and lessons, etc. So Envisions is a 3-volume program, Algebra 1, Algebra 2, and Geometry, that's blended, customizable, and it comes in print and digital form. There are 4 parts to the student components. There's the hardbound student edition. There's the consumable student companion that's soft covered. And what the student companion does is it increases in-class engagement as students explain their thinking, solve problems, and make mathematics their own. Then there's the student assessment workbook, which is also consumable, and it provides students with formative and summative assessments to help them prepare for high stakes. And then finally, there's Savvis Realize, which is our award-winning digital platform that has all the resources available. It's easy to navigate, and it's aligned to the standards and fully customizable. In terms of teacher components, we have the 2-volume Teachers Edition, and there's topics and lessons that balance instructional focus, coherence, and rigor. There's embedded math background pages and instructional support. Then we have the Teachers Edition program overview, which we're going to look at in a little more depth. And it's a user's guide with information about pacing, teaching, differentiating, and more. There's the assessment resource, which contains versions of the readiness test masters, the topic performance task masters, cumulative masters, progress monitoring, and assessments. And then finally, once again, for teachers, there's Savvis Realize, which is our digital online platform that contains everything you could possibly need. So at this point, it's time to log in to our Savvis Realize. So, and my Savvis training. So the first thing we're going to do is to log into Savvis Realize. So we would go to www.savvisrealize.com. It's going to ask you to sign in. And when you do, it takes you to the landing page. Now, if you need to register, which you all should have registered by now, there's a quick reference guide for it. Okay, what we have over here on the right-hand side, you can click on the magnifying glass, and it will give you help by these different activities. You could also click on the question mark, and it gives you help for that specific page, program training, technical support, and you can even have a walkthrough with a specialist. And then if you click on your name, you have settings, announcements, and that's where you can sign in and out. All right, so if we click on the home screen, we see that that's where our courses are. But if we click on browse, we can open up a text. So I'd like you to open up Envision's Algebra 1 copyright 2018. Mine's front and center at top left, but you may have to scroll a little bit to find yours. When you do that, would you please open it? Then when you click on browse, okay, you'll see that there are plenty of resources here on the left-hand side that you can choose from. There's a suite of digital math tools, there's a glossary, and there's Desmo's activity. So let's browse by activity really quickly. If we click on activity, We'll see all the possible examples and questions. If we click on practice, we'll see that we have adaptive practice, Math Excel, etc. Let's close that out. There's also program resources, which is, we have our virtual nerd practice and resources by state. There's teacher support, which is, teaches you about additional practice and things of that nature, and all the basic resources. So let's go back to Envision's Algebra 1 right here to get to the home page. And if we click on this little wrench, I love this. We see that that's where the math tools are, the glossary, the Desmos graphing calculator, Desmos geometry, the scientific calculator, answers and solutions, exam view, and multilingual handbook. So this is great resources right here, just absolutely fantastic. If we click on math tools, we get, now it'll open up in the next window, but we have our virtual manipulatives that are so important for students. Okay, let me close that up. And we'll go back. So if we look over here, we see that there are classroom videos, beginning of the year assessment, which is hugely important. That's an assessment of prerequisite knowledge. That means at the beginning of the year, students can take that assessment and it will identify who needs some additional interventions right away so that they can keep up with the program. Then we see the course is divided up into topics, and each topic has within it lessons. All right, so now we're going to look at topic structure. And in order to do that, I'm going to go back to my PowerPoint. Okay, so we did our realized tour. And now we're going to be able to explain the topic structure of Envision's AGA. So if we look at the topic resources, we see that topics are just like chapters. But in addition to regular topic chapter materials, they include STEM projects, math modeling in 3 acts, and 4-step lessons that build on each other to help students develop conceptual understanding, procedural fluency, and application skills throughout each topic. So let's go back to Savas Realize. And if we click on topic 4, we can start with the teacher resources. We can see that there's the STEM project. And there's actually a video to introduce it, which I think is really cool, and I'd like to show it to you.
Don't you just love a good barbecue? Friends, family, the great outdoors, and food? Usually lots of food. Potato salad, green bean casserole, baked beans, corn on the cob, burgers, and coleslaw. Well, I'm not such a big fan of coleslaw, but that's actually a good thing because
Okay. Another hugely important video that you see along with each topic. Okay, so if we go to topic 4 again, we'll see an overview video for that topic. Here it is, the professional development video that goes with the topic. So let's click right here, and this will introduce in 3 minutes the entire topic for us.
In this topic, students build on their understanding of linear equations and inequalities to use and solve systems of linear equations and inequalities. Students identify 3 cases of 2 linear equations and 2 unknowns. 2 lines with a unique intersection point, 2 concurrent lines, and 2 parallel lines.
Okay, so we see there's the instructional video for the topic. There's the topic readiness assessment. Once again, that's an assessment of prerequisite knowledge. It shows which students aren't quite ready to begin the topic yet, and it will help us provide them with interventions. There's the Envision STEM project, which I just showed you the video about. And then there's a series of 4-step lessons. And in this case, there are 5 of those lessons. There's math modeling in 3 acts, which in this case comes after lesson number 4. Let's take a look at that. So it's some videos and some, like there's the first act. It's video with questions. Then there's some content, more questions in act 2. And then act 3 has another video and followed by some more questions. It's so much fun. The students will love that. And it's a great way to mix up the instruction a little bit. Then there's the topic review right here, where we can go over that before the students take their final assessments. And then there's the formative assessments for the topic. There's there's a performance assessment and a formative assessment, and that also comes in Spanish. So really, that's what the topic review is all about. The pacing guide we saw earlier, but I'm going to show it to you once again. If we go to the Envisions Algebra 1, once again, and click on Teacher Resources. If we go to that planning guide, and open it up, I'm going to put it in the chat. Okay, so I put a link to the planning guide in the chat, and we see that if we go to page 18, we come to the planning guide. So we'll scroll down to page 18. And look at this. We see that topic number 1 takes 9 days in a 90-minute block, or 17 days in a 45-minute class. Topic 2 is on linear equations, and we see the pacing guide for that. That's really, really helpful. Actually, this whole document should be read cover to cover before you start teaching the course. It's amazingly helpful, but especially this section. Okay, I'm going to close up that. And actually, I'm going to stop my share for a second. All right. Would you please go to reactions? Now, I want you to give a thumbs up if you're caught up with everything, or I want you to raise your hand and if you have any questions to ask at this point. I just want to make sure we're all okay with all the topic resources. Okay, great. Now let me share the screen again. We'll go back to our PowerPoint. And this is what some of the print materials look like. On the left side, we would see what's available in print. On the right side, we see what's available on our digital platform. So right now, we're going to go into we're going to do our first breakout, and we're going to discuss in small groups how will these topic pages help you plan. All right, so I'm going to go to more, and then I'm going to go to breakout rooms. And I'm going to set you up, since there's 20 of you, I want 4 in each breakout room. So we'll have 5 breakout rooms. It will assign you automatically. Okay, so we're going to go to your breakout rooms for 5 minutes. And let's make it 3 minutes. And you're going to discuss how will these topic pages help you plan. I want you to pick one spokesperson from each group. Okay, we're back now. And why don't you put into the chat, the spokesperson from each group, how the topic pages will help you plan. Okay, that's Awesome. You guys are doing such a great job. Does anybody have any questions? All right, then let's share the screen again. We'll head back to the PowerPoint. I'll turn off my face. Okay, now the meat and potatoes of today's lesson is to really understand how the lesson structure, and there are 4 parts. So that's what we're going to be diving into next. So part 1 of the lesson structure is called explore, and there are 3 different types of exploring. There's explore and reasoning, critique and explain, or model and discuss. And the purpose of explore is to introduce concepts and procedures informally with a problem-solving experience that connects new content to prior knowledge. So that's constructivism, really. And we want to facilitate rich classroom conversations that promote a growth mindset and result in deeper conceptual understanding. So students will be working in teams, pairs, or small groups. And this is really to help them gain conceptual understanding. The second part of lesson structure is understand and apply. This is where they develop their procedural fluency. And it's to make the important mathematics explicit with direct instruction that connects back to the problem in step 1. So in other words, this is where the teacher will be modeling and engaging students with guided practice and even a little bit of independent practice. In step 3, this is where we get into the application of problem solving and practice. And it consists of 4 different exercise sets. And that set manifests itself with understanding, practice, apply, and assessment practice. And we'll see, and some of that is powered by Math Excel, which is another digital tool for additional practice. And lastly, there's assess and differentiate, which students take a formative quiz, and that formative quiz will inform the teacher and the students about different interventions and further steps that they can help take to deepen their understanding. All right, so right now we're going to watch a little video about explore.
For 8 of the launch we did together, but everybody was on the same page to begin the launch. So Tara, just start at the top, Rochelle.
All right, so we've seen the video, and now I'm going to show you where the explore can be found in the digital materials. Okay, so if we click to the landing page and choose topic 4, we're talking about lesson 4.2. And here's the explore. It's also in the print materials. And if we want to look at what that explore, how it manifests itself, we open up the model and discuss. And we see that students have their chemical mixture problem to work with. And it's pages 1 of 1. Okay, if we want to add a keypad to it, we got numbers, variables, basic function, basic arithmetic, and basic functions. So it's a fairly powerful calculator that's also there, and that's made to us by our friendly folks from Desmos. All right. So that's the first part, exploration, which is to promote conceptual understanding. Now we're going to go into the second part, and I'll go back to our PowerPoint. Oh, I'm sorry. Before we go into part 2, we're going to go into our breakout groups, and we're going to spend a couple of minutes, really 60 seconds, answering the following 2 questions. Why is doing the math perhaps the most important part of planning a lesson? And how do you facilitate high-level student discourse around the math in your classrooms? All right, get into your groups and discuss, and then we'll come back and debrief. Okay, we're back now. People, please write into the chat box what you discuss. All right, I'm seeing a lot of great answers. Would you please mute off if you're going to have sidebar conversations? Thank you. I appreciate that. Now, when we're dealing with Explore, we want to anticipate student thinking and planning for redirection of misconceptions. We want to get a feel for time management of the lesson. We want to experience the progression of building. And we want to, engage students in questions. So that there's quite a lot going on with the Explore. So the presenter has an easy job. It's the audience that has the task of figuring out why the presenter's thinking was chosen and how it compares to their own thinking. All right, so those are some great answers. And if you didn't come up with some of the more important ones, I would add them in. Okay, now we're going to go into step 2 of the lesson, which is understanding and applying. So I'm going to share the screen again. I'm going to turn off my hideous little face. Okay, we got a little blockage going on. Okay, here we go. And I'm going to show you the video.
The Launchpad students look at these two equations, solve them by graphing, which was content they previously learned. And now we're going to connect it forward. They now move to example 1, and they see two equations again. This time, though, we think about it. Is there a different way that we might do this? Can we do it another way? Is there a reason why another way might be better than graphing?
All right, so I hope you would really focus on the type of vocabulary that was being used and how the teacher directed students toward meeting the learning goal around substitution. All right, so let's take a look at the PowerPoint presentation again. And we're going to break up into our groups again. What are the various ways you build and facilitate the use of vocabulary, academic vocabulary in your classroom? All right, we're going to get you into your groups. And how do you ensure each learner meets or exceeds the day's learning goal? Okay, so let's get into our breakout rooms. You'll have 60 seconds to discuss that, and then we'll be able to share back out. Okay, the 60 seconds is up. What have you guys talked about? I think one great way of promoting vocabulary is through word walls, where we put the term, an illustration, the definition, and when it's used. In terms of how we know our students are mastering the goal, there's everything about our types of the questioning. Any other comments that people want to make? Oh, using data, that's a great idea. Flexible interventions, I love that. Assessing early and often. I always say we should assess early and often, kind of like the way some people vote on election day. All right, fantastic. All right, let's move on now. And we're going to move into practice and problem solving. So let me share my screen again. Okay, now we have our little video to watch.
When kids move to homework,
So did you notice that in step 2, understanding and applying, we are really developing procedural fluency. And then we get into practice and problem solving, we're getting into the application stage of rigor. All right, we're going to break up into our breakout rooms again. And this time I want you to discuss why is conceptual understanding important for long-term retention of learning? Okay, get into your rooms. We're going to have 60 seconds to discuss that. Okay. "60 seconds is up. Let's talk. What did you guys discuss?" Okay, that's fantastic. You talked about what we could use in Savvis Realize. You talked about opening up the Math Excel assignment to help students who might be struggling. I love that. All right, and we talked about how this really promotes application of the new material, which of course, this way students can never be able to say, you never showed us when in real life we were going to be able to use this. So it's the why behind the mathematics. All right. Now we're going to go into the fourth part, which is assess and differentiate. So first we're going to watch the video, then I'm going to take you into Savvis Realize. So let's watch this video.
In this lesson, there's various formative assessment opportunities. There's a lesson quiz that you could do on paper or on technology in a one-to-one classroom. And I would use the lesson quiz.
Okay, let's go back into our Savvis Realize. And if we scroll down, here's practice and problem solving. And we see that, let's take a look at I should have shown you this earlier, but what the Math Excel for school practice looks like. Okay, so it's basically they are explaining, they have to have some applying conceptual understanding. Right, and there's a few of those questions. Okay, then there's the adaptive practice. Let's take a look at that because that's really interesting. Okay, so they would use graphs to find and approximate solutions. They'll solve solutions for linear equations with substitution, and they'll use a variety of tools to solve systems of linear equations. Those are the standards, and the adaptive practice is print material that is available. All right, now finally, in terms of assess and differentiate, there's the lesson quiz. And once students take that lesson quiz, the answer key will make recommendations about which students need to do which additional work based on intervention or enrichment. So we have more Math Excel. We have reteaching to build understanding. Another piece of Math Excel, additional practice, enrichment. Math literacy and vocabulary. A lot of the EL students might need to do that. And virtual nerd, which is some really cool videos that kids just love that will help reinforce the understanding. And then, of course, everything, there's the Spanish resources as well. Okay, now we're going to move into let me just stop my video. Okay, now we're going to move into our breakout rooms again, and we're going to have one final question about lesson structure. So let's go back to Zoom. I'm going to stop the share and get you guys into your rooms. Okay. And our final question is, how do we foster a classroom culture of learner confidence and risk-taking in your mathematicians, which of course are your students? And you'll have 60 seconds to discuss that, and then we'll come back and debrief. Okay, what did you guys share? What did you come up with? Yes, there are a variety of resources. Yeah, I think it's really cool that they would take a quiz near the end of the lesson, not at the very end, so that the differentiation can be established. I think that's fantastic. Okay, great. Let me share away. So now, once again, you understand the 4 parts of the lesson structure. The first part is to develop conceptual understanding. Second part is for procedural fluency. Third part is for application. And lastly, for formative assessment and differentiation. So now let's wrap up. Gosh, I'm so proud of you guys. Actually, let's go back to this. Let me just shut off my video for a second. So you can see from our lesson overview that how habits of mind, such as critical thinking and sample student work, will spark conversations. You know, we learn to understand and apply, practice, problem solve, and lastly, assess and differentiate. So the digital resources and the print resources are rich and varied, and they can help all of our students. Okay, so finally, let's wrap it up. It's time to wrap up today's session. So what I would like you to do is in the chat, I would like you to answer these 2 questions. What parts of Envisions would you like to know more about? And what's one goal you wish to accomplish in the next few weeks as you're prepared to implement Envisions? So this way, when I come back, we can focus on these things. It can be differentiated professional development, and I'll be able to help you focus on these types of documents. All right, take a few minutes to answer that in the chat. And then on Savvis Realize, you can see that there's so many other. I just want to go back to Savvis Realize to show you how you can map your own professional development. So if we click over here on the hourglass, there's all of these categories to help you with professional development. If we click on the question mark, you can have help for any page, program training. Let's see what happens when we click on there. You can explore Savvis Realize, what's new with Savvis Realize, scroll on down, all these additional videos that can help you. So there's a plethora of resources. Okay, stop my sharing. You guys have been a phenomenal audience. Do you have any questions for me? All right, there's going to be an evaluation for you to fill out. And just remember that there's, the tutorial in the 3-act math, there's tutorials in differentiation, in teaching a lesson, and in the platform tutorials. So there's tons of tutorials for you and additional resources. And of course, you could always shoot me an email if you have any specific questions. Thanks for being such a great audience. I've really enjoyed working with you, and I am over and out. Bye-bye.